my addiction to certain things that caused her to lose
Stress.
trust in me.
Yeah,
And
I get that.
the funny thing is literally she left my apartment about 10 minutes before this started.
Oh, wow. Tell me kind of like, first, give me a kind of a background. How long have you guys been together?
20 years, been together 8.
Beautiful. I love that. All right, good. Awesome. So you got a lot to fight for, my brother. Is what I'm hearing from you. Yeah. Okay, and so tell me, do you have any kids together? Did you raise children together?
We have 2 kids together, 10 and 13.
Okay, good. So you got school age children. All right, good. Got that. And so tell me like where are we at right now in your situation? Are you still living together?
No, I got served papers in February on my son's birthday.
Okay.
Um, we have a we we've kind of gone through the process. It hasn't been finalized yet.
Okay.
So we're working through that. It's not contentious. There's stress moments, but there's arguing or anything like that. I
Okay.
look at the benefit of the kids more than what I want out of it.
What's the time frame that we have on the divorce proceedings? Do you have a
I
house together? Do you have assets?
We have a house, retirement, but we've already agreed certain things like our retirements we're not going after.
Okay.
It's mostly just the
The
house.
kids? How about the kids? Are you guys still in talking about?
She has, because of what I do, I coach and teach, and so I'm really busy. So I can be
Yeah.
50-50, but I have no restrictions.
Okay. So kind of tell me, this is what I want to hear because I want to know like how much, what's the timeline on the finalizing the divorce so we can have a game to play?
I don't know. I talked to my attorney actually Thursday. We're going to go to mediation, but it'll probably be within the next 6 weeks.
Okay. I got that. All right, good, good. So we got time. We got more than enough time, is what I'm hearing. So this is great. I like this. All right, so we got to move things. So tell me what is it that why is it that how did you guys get here?
We got a lot of it due to lack of communication. Uh, my addiction to certain things that caused her to lose
Stress.
trust in me.
I got that.
The funny thing is literally she left my apartment about 10 minutes before this started
Oh, wow.
because
Okay.
we were talking about the house and what we're going to do with the asset from the house.
This is great, man. You know what I like about your situation already? Proximity. We have contact. That's all we need. And it sounds like you guys are not fighting, which for some people that would be an issue, but that you guys can have communication and talk about it without the attorneys there means that you got a lot of space. There's a lot that we can there's a lot of room to work on this thing.
And what you said, I she actually was calling when you were talking about the principles, anytime, anywhere, anyhow, and I kind of missed the
Yeah.
first part. And so the question I had on that was, I've been talking to this pastor, and he's like, if you want any chance, you have to be there. You have
Like
to,
beware.
like you said, you don't want to feel like you're being used or abused,
Yeah.
but like if she needs something, you have to be there. And
Uh,
hear other
yeah.
people say she's got to do it on her own. She's got to figure this out. And I
No.
I have a hard time with that.
Good.
It goes against everything I
I have
believe.
a hard time with that too, right? She's got to figure that out on her own. She's not going to figure it out on her own. She's already figured out that she doesn't want to be with you, right? Is about mine. Because I'm imagining that she's the one that filed, obviously, because you received the papers. So you were served, right? So, no, we need to bring her back from where she's at, is the bottom line, all right? And so that's great. You definitely want to be there. And at the same time, guys, here's what I want you to understand. I got an injury, and one of my legs was more injured than more injured, and the other one's strong, right? And so during that time, the strong legs doing all the work, okay? And it feels like the strong had to get really strong to carry all my weight. And so it felt sore a lot. Now, Jeremy, in your relationship right now, you're the strong leg.
Yeah.
I don't want you guys this is what I want everybody to understand. Give up the talk about being a punching bag or being a doormat because you got to give that up so that you can let your partner like you got to be there and you've got to be that bridge for your relationship by yourself until you can get her to the other side. I had to do that myself. So we're not going to talk about, what she's doing or being a punching bag. If you can get past that, guys, I'm telling you, you can win. There's a day when my wife said, my wife is amazing. And, she was calling me a monster. She was right about it, by the way. I was a monster, and she called me names, and she's not a name caller, but she did. And I had to be there and I had to take it and I had to be there so she could get rid of all that stuff. And that's what you got to be, Jeremie. And if you can actually stand in the pocket with all that pressure on you and you can stand in love, because really, we've got to stand inside of that and be that strong leg for the relationship. That's the beginning of it. But we have to give up that stuff unless you're going to get stuck. Does that make sense what I'm saying? So I know that you're beyond that, but I want to make sure that you don't listen to anybody when they say, hey, don't let her, beat up on you. Don't be a punching bag. Don't be a doormat. Don't do all that stuff. No, you got to let her be for right now so that she gets out whatever she needs to. So you be the strong leg for your relationship. That's what needs to happen more than anything else.
One thing my pastor said is that the day that you decide to quit is the day it's over.
100%. I like this, pastor. All right. That's what I want to say. Okay. 100%. All right. And so he's right about that. And then being there for her is also very important whenever she needs you. Now, specifically there are certain times where you can actually move the relationship massively forward. One of those times is when your partner needs you for something important, like when they're going through something and you're actually there for them. When you're there for them, it actually gives an oxytocin release, a massive oxytocin spike, and oxytocin is the happy hormone that actually creates bonding. I literally have seen relationships where the relationship where they were what they said irreconcilably broken the relationship was, and where they had been apart for months or even as much as a year and a half, and they have found their way back to each other because the other partner was the support that they needed whenever they needed them, right in that moment. So if we can do that, he's 100% right as far as that's concerned, but there's a lot more that you got to do. Okay. So you've got those addictions or whatever that showed up in your relationship that she's not willing to deal with anymore. You're going to actually have to change that future. So guys, this is a big thing. Men buy a past, women buy a future. The masculine buys a past and the feminine buys a future. This is real. All right. What I mean by that is this. And honestly, inside of relationships, period, is that you want to understand is that whatever decisions people are making are based upon the future that they're living into. But get this, when I say that a man buys a past and a woman buys a future, what I mean by that is mostly men, think about it, guys, is that we don't care. This is a principle. We don't care really what she, where she, I mean, honestly, with my wife, I didn't care what job she was doing or where she was going. I cared about who she was as a human being before I met her. This is why, honestly, women keep, I'm gonna be straight. Can I be straight with everybody? This is why a woman who keeps her, who takes care of herself and doesn't give herself to a lot of men, that's a much bigger deal for a man. For a woman, she cares less. Generally speaking, they care less about how many people a man has actually been with. Why? Because a man buys the past and a woman buys a future. Now, here's the deal. If a woman feels like your future isn't strong, if she feels like her future with you is going to be a future that she doesn't want, guess what? It weighs heavily on her, and she's going to run away from that. Does that make sense? This is just the way that it is. So what you've actually got to transform, Jeremie, is the future. Because the reason why she served you papers is and you've got an 11 and 13-year-old is because she sees a future where you're going to be dealing with the same crap and she's going to be living the same future. Does that make sense that she doesn't want to live?
And that's what she told me tonight.
I got you, brother. I know what I'm talking about. Now, the thing about it is this is what we got to focus on and take our energy and actually focus on transforming that future. That's what's got to happen more than anything else. Now, you can tell her that things are going to be different. You can tell her that things are going to change. You've probably already said that multiple times, right? Is the bottom line. You do anything for your family. You seem like that kind of man. You're on this call right now. But the reality of the situation, which I acknowledge and I honor, right, is what I want to say. But what's got to happen right now is that you now have to focus on making sure that there's such a body of evidence around you that she's got that she has no doubts. First of all, we have to remove the toxicity. So that toxic past is there, right? And so it's not just that she sees this logically, she also feels it. She feels that. There's what we call an emotional residue that's been given by your proclivities, given by your by the stuff that happened, given by the impact. So there's been an emotional impact that's impacted her that makes her not want to be there. And when she thinks about you, and when she thinks about that thing, she thinks about a future where she's going to be dealing with this, and it makes her want to run in the opposite direction. So if we can actually detoxify the relationship first, and then we can put in a new future, we have to actually create a new future with her, Jeremie, is what we have to do, where she actually sees something else that's possible, then you're going to be able to shift the relationship. And literally, I'm going to be honest with you. I worked with a guy. So first of all, let me just be clear about this. What else have you tried?
Oh wait,
Have you guys tried counseling?
We tried it once, but then we ended up moving, so it kind of ended that.
Fizzled out.
Because of the lack of communication between us and understanding where our problems were at with each other. That was the biggest point. And so it's funny because it's like just today I told her, I says, I understand my role. Yeah. I never looked to see what I was doing that hurt you. I was taking responsibility for what I did. I've said it to her before, but right at the very beginning. But our kids are at camp, and we had to talk about the house tonight. And so
it's just sincere, and she's not going to believe you. Right.
She says,
that's the problem. I mean, you're saying all the right things, right? But so you try. So what I'm hearing is that you try to do you did one session of couples counseling, and then you had to move, right? And then you tried to to apologize. You said, hey, I'm sorry for the way that things have been. Did you make any new promises with her? Did you try that?
The only promise that I made to her was, one, I would never go back. And I even promised my daughter, I promised my son. Yeah. And I promised God. I said, I can't go back.
Yeah. I got that.
The cool thing is that since the divorces started, how I treat my kids, the anger issues that I had are like non-existent.
Oh, they're gone.
Yeah. How I handled it is starting to work on that addiction. And
good for you.
I'm the type of person, and I'm a coach. I have to have progress and success now, but I know it's a process. And talking with my pastors, he goes, she's got lots of years of frustration and hurt built up. She may have to go through this whole process and get through the divorce. He says, you may have to go through it all.
Listen, you tried your pastor too, right? So I appreciate your pastor, and I appreciate what he does. He doesn't do what I do though, right? So he's great. I like him. Everything he's saying, I'm in agreement with, by the way. I like him a lot. And I love where he's coming from. I don't want you to get a divorce. How about you? I don't want to get there.
I don't want to get divorced.
Yeah, I don't think he wants you to get a divorce either. And what he's saying, is not necessarily not true, but I think there's more other things that you haven't tried yet. This is why I asked you all the things that you've tried. Does that make sense? And so, the fact that she's actually, I think that you just have to receive, guys, when your partner says, I want out, it's because that's a communication they need to make. And if you can get the communication, they don't have to follow through with the divorce very often. More often than not, they don't actually have to see the divorce through if you can actually get the real communication that they're making. People are communicating through their actions. His wife is communicating through her actions. Okay? She's saying, I want out of this relationship. She doesn't want out. She's got 11 and 13-year-old that they have to raise together. She loves this man. This is why she came over and they're having discussions. This is why. She married him in the first place. There's a reason why. Now, the question is, she needs him to know, and she may not even know it for herself, that she needs him to get that communication and to know that he's never going to go back and he's never going to do this thing again. And until you can actually communicate that to her, you can, first of all, take out the toxicity first. We got to take out the toxicity first, but then make that communication and create that new future that she's clear about. When you can do that and really hear her and really, so it disappears. Her need to divorce you disappears. How did this woman that I just talked about at the beginning of the situation of this conversation, the woman who now got her husband back, who got served with papers during our weekend, how did she do it? Well, she started the detoxification of the relationship. Is that she needed to do that. She needed to get that out of the way. She had to detox the relationship. And then with the little bit of time that she had, she started dosing it. Same exact thing. And so guess what? I'm going to tell you, this is what you got to do. You got to turn that thing around, and you're going to have to detox your begin the detoxification, because whatever you've done, I'm not going to ask you what that addiction is, but whatever it is, it has created a tremendous amount of pain. Now, if you can get the communication, she had to let him know that she got the communication that he's making, that he was serious about him never having to deal with whatever she was dealing with ever again. Does that make sense? And when he knew that she got the communication inside of the divorce, guess what? He didn't have to do anymore. He didn't have to divorce her anymore. Do you get what I'm saying? He didn't need to continue through. All of a sudden, he started finding himself, oh, I don't have to communicate my upset anymore. And the upset went away. So there's what you actually need to get as a communication that she doesn't even know that she's communicating right now. She's communicating her upset. She's communicating her upset through the divorce itself. And if you can actually get that communication, then she doesn't have to make that communication. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
Yep.
That's just the bottom line, Jeremy, is the bottom line. That's the beginning of your story. And then the biggest things I'm going to give you right now inside this conversation are two things. Number one, you need to really be listening for what is that communication that she's got, that she's really making here. What is it that she's really saying? What is it that she needs you to get? I think we know what that is, but you have to be able to communicate it back to her, and then she does it. Guys, when someone says something to you over and over and over and over and over again, you ever had that experience being in a conversation, they keep saying the same thing over to you over and over again? The reason why they're saying it to you over and over and over again is because you're not receiving that communication, and so they feel the machinery wants to communicate it again. It has to keep on saying the same thing, and it amplifies that communication. So I guarantee you that Jeremie, that she's made communications to you that you haven't gotten in the past. And so now this is what it's come to. It's come to where we're at right now, where she's got to amplify that communication to the point of divorce. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. So we just have to get that out of the way for you as a bottom line. Now, that situation I just shared, she had to get his communication. What is he really saying inside of the divorce? When she said, hey, look, I get that this is what we're dealing with. This is what you're feeling. This is what I left you with. And when she got that communication, he didn't need to give her the divorce anymore. Now he could come toward her. He didn't feel that angst and that upset anymore. And he could come toward her inside the relationship. And so that's what you got to do. That's the first thing you've got to do. And then number two, what you've got to do is that now you've got to now focus on creating a new future. Because the future she's living into is a future where you, my friend, you're going to keep doing the same things. Well, she's got to spend the rest of her life worried about this addictions. Does that make sense?
And that's what she said tonight, was she's not stressed anymore because she doesn't have to worry about what I'm doing anymore.
Don't you worry about it. We can get you to the other side. Jeremie, I'm going to tell you right now, bro, you got some work. You have a little bit of work to do, but I don't think your situation's that difficult, honestly. I mean, I think that the fact that you guys talk, are in communication with each other, I think that you can actually shift the relationship. But I think that you do have some trouble. And the trouble is that she's already on the other side of it. You can't play around with it. If you're waiting for a divorce for her to come back to you, I mean, I have seen it, but when people do what I'm asking them to do right now, which is, triggering that connection again, taking out the detoxing the relationship, triggering the connection again, and then triggering attraction again. They've got to do that, and you've got to do that inside your relationship, and you got to do it now. I wouldn't wait until the marriage is complete for you to do that. Does that make sense?
All I can do is start doing what I'm doing. I can't control what she does, but If it finishes, it finishes, but it's not on my time. I just
Yeah.
got to
Well,
work.
I think
I
that
gotta
you can
start
do a
the
lot of things.
I start the detox now and start trying to change the future. So that's
Yeah.
all I can do.
Look, there's nothing you can do, but I'm going to tell you this right now is that there's plenty that you can do, right? You have it like there's nothing you can do. I think you're wrong.
No, I
I
said
think
that.
there's a lot of things that you can do.
So I know I start the process. I start to detox. I start to try
That's right.
to do that. And whatever happens, happens. But I just keep working at it regardless of what happens.
100%. Then guess what? You're actually demonstrating the masculine too, someone who's not just like reactive. You're actually creating. You're creating love. You're standing inside of love. You're having this, you're being this consistent, reliable source of love and a stand for your relationship. That will go a long way as well. But yeah, you've got work to do though. So you got to get her angst out. You got to get her upset out. You got to get her concerned about the future out. Listen, I highly recommend that you get on a call with us to see if this is something that you want to do, is the bottom line. Because I really do believe that your marriage can be saved. I think that the fact that she's already past it, you're gonna have to do some work now. I think that if you wait until she divorces you, she ain't coming back. And the reason why I'm saying that is because she's already experiencing not stress. She's taking the stress out because she's kind of detached from you, right? I don't like the fact that she's completely detached this way, right? And so I want to actually bring that back. I want to bring the relationship back. I wouldn't wait until she's got a piece of paper and the logistics already in place where it makes it easier for her to just keep on going the way that you guys have been going. Does that make sense?
Yep.
You know, the completion of life. So look, send Brian, do me a favor, go to admin, send Brian your name and phone number, and let's see if we can do something together and we can make this thing work. I would love to work with you is the bottom line. I think that you can save your relationship, but you're going to have to be in action is the bottom line. Okay.
Thanks, Mario.
You're welcome, brother. And by the way, I'm completely aligned with your pastor, right? So I'm glad that you're in communication with him. He really seems like a wonderful guy. I'm glad that you're getting sourced by him inside of this, and you need more direction specifically for this, right? I'm like an emergency room doctor, right? So this is what you need right now. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. All right, good, awesome, guys. Give it up for Jeremie. All right, did that make a difference for you, Jeremie? Did that help a little bit to kind of get an idea?
Help bring me some focus.
Exactly. That's exactly what you need. You need to know exactly what to focus on when you're having those communications with your wife, when we have that contact with her, how we're going to drive this thing forward. We have time, right? We don't have mediation for 6 weeks. This is fantastic. We have time to turn this thing around, but you got to do it now. Don't wait till the end. People wait till the end, dude. It bothers me that people play that role and they play around with their relationships. Don't do that. Just, do it now, because when people make up their mind and they start making decisions, it's hard to change someone's mind. It's harder, is the bottom line. It can be done, but it just makes the game a lot harder, is the bottom line, right?
So
the
my
longer
question,
that they're there.
I do have one question is, since we live apart,
Yeah,
I got an apartment that is close as possible, which
good.
I think I fight with cockroaches more than my wife now. But
Yeah,
I did it because I was in close proximity of work and her and the
Good.
kids. So it's literally 15 minutes each way.
fantastic.
But how much do I reach out to try to do things, or should I wait?
You need
We
to
come in,
listen.
we come in
Just talk.
contact. We come in contact with each other because of the kids a lot.
Right.
Like I would go and drive out of my way to go pick them up, take them to school. And, she said, you don't have to knock. You can come into the house.
Right.
And when I go in, it's my question is, you hear no contact, but we do have contact, but I try to give her space.
Let me sum this up, okay? Because you're trying to figure it out. Is that, listen, don't press her. If you press her, you're going to actually, she's going to have a visceral reaction and go away from you. Does that make sense? And then you're training her to go away from you. So we don't want to do that. We actually want to create a scenario inside of those contacts that she naturally is creating to trigger her wanting to come to you. Does that make sense what I'm saying? And then we start seeing what we call IOIs, or indicators of interest, and that's when you get your wife back. But if you keep pressing her, if you go after her, it's going to cause problems. I don't want you to do that. Does that make sense?
Yep. Perfect sense.
All right, man. Listen, look, send him your name and phone number is the bottom line, And let's see if we can do something together, because you just need some direction here is the bottom line. You need, just like that kind of question, you could go the opposite direction. And some of you are doing that. You're trying to press your partner. You're trying to say that, you want to, you're trying to, press them and say, hey, I love you, but I'm doing anything I can. I'm so sorry for everything. Why don't you listen? You're doing all this stuff and you're actually driving them away from you, and you're actually training them not to be with you. And that's not what we want to do. We want to go in the opposite direction. Right? Yeah. All right, brother. All right, awesome. Give it up for Jeremie, guys. Thank you, Jeremie. Thanks for your sharing, brother, and thanks for your stand for your marriage.